Good morning, church. How you doing today? Oh, man, if we've never met, my name's CJ, pastor here at the Shore, and I'm really excited that you're here to wrap up this series with us. Now, last night, we had an awesome event. We had our very first in this building marriage conference, second time we've done it, and it was really awesome. Had some great people here, guest speakers coming in, and it was so cool. If you missed it, next year we will do it again, and I invite you to be a big part of that, okay? Now, before I jump into the series, I want to highlight next week's series. I'm going to start a brand new series, and it's going to be about hearing the voice of God. I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life where I'm like, God, what are you saying? I would really like to know right now. Anybody else been there? Yeah, and yeah, like that's where I was. That's where I've been. And this series, starting next week, we're going to take the month of March, and we're going to learn what the voice of God sounds like, how he interacts with his people, and we're just going to call that Whisper. Cool? All right, so that's going to start next week. I want to invite you there to make sure that you are ready for it. All right, now, this week, my job is to wrap up the series, Adam and Eve. And we've had an incredible run of throughout this series. The last 2 weeks, my wonderful, beautiful wife, who I have to give a shout out to right now, has been on the platform. She did stuff last night at our marriage conference as well. And that is not a comfortable position for her. She does not necessarily like to be up here and speaking, but she did an incredible job the last couple of weeks. So I gotta give a shout out to her. Isn't she awesome? She's really cool. Right now, she's actually teaching one of our kids' classes. So she doesn't stop, does she? She's a mother of 4. She puts up with me every day, and she just keeps doing and ministering to people. I absolutely love her, which I should. She's my wife, right? So she's awesome. So, but this series, my job today is to kind of wrap it up, give some principles and some practices that we can put into relationships and really change the direction of those relationships. We've talked about a male perspective, a female perspective. I even took you back to Adam and Eve on first Wednesday to kick off this series. But my job today is to give you some tools, some resources that will help you in your everyday relationships. It doesn't have to be marriage. It can be with someone you're dating. It could be with your children. It could be with your coworkers. It could be with your neighbors or your friends. And any relationship you have, you can put these into practice. Now, I'm 35 now. And so, I'm glad people cheer over that, like, he didn't die, woo! Like, that was good, thank you. But I'm 35 now, so I don't know if I am entering the middle-age stage of life or not. Because I'm like halfway to 70, and is 70 like towards the end or not? Like, so am I getting closer? 40, you guys, 40 is, how many go, 50? Does 50 middle age? Like, where does it start? Like, I don't know. What I know is 60. You're going to live to 120 right in the middle right now. I don't know how long I'm going to live. So I don't know. So I have these things in my mind like, well, what's going to happen when I want to stop working? I want to retire or not have to work to get money. I want to be able to work for the church for free someday, right? Like that's a goal of mine. And so I've started to think about my investments for my future. Does that make sense to you guys? Anybody else think like that before? My IRA or Roth IRA. Some of you guys are converting your term life insurance to whole life insurance, and some of you guys have 401k, and you've got these investments and your portfolio is growing. And if you don't know anything that I'm talking about, you might want to talk to a financial advisor. They'll help you understand all of that stuff. But I'm thinking along these lines, and it's all these investments that bring returns that eventually will give me what I want out of life, right? But instead of thinking of it from a financial standpoint, what if we looked at it from a relational standpoint? How is your relationship portfolio right now? Right? It's probably fairly diversified. Like, you probably have someone that you know at work, right? You probably have someone you know in your personal life, whether that's a friendship. You probably have a family member somewhere on the planet. There's some diversification there, right? But how healthy are they? Are these investments growing, or are they diminishing? So how is your relationship portfolio? See, what I want to do today is I want to talk about our relationship portfolio and how we can invest in our relationships so that we can get a greater return on our investment. Because I want your marriages growing stronger. I want your relationships with your kids to be better. I want your work life to get stronger from a relational standpoint. I want your friendships to be encouraging and growing, not just, hey, I got a couple, right? Like how do we invest into these relationships so that we can get a good return someday on those investments? And so what I've decided to do is we're going to have 3 investments this morning we can make into our relationships that will give us a yield from those things, and will ultimately make our life better. How many of you guys want a better life? Cool. All right. How many believe that there's room to grow in some of your relationships? Yeah, me too. So what I want to do today is give you the tools to help those relationships grow, whether it's, again, friends, family, or work, neighbors, anything. So the first thing you can do is, if you've got your notepad or your notes that I gave you on your way in, why don't you pull that out? We're going to have 3 things today. The first one is a vocal investment. Vocal investments. Vocal investments are investments that we speak, things that we say. How many of you have ever been invested in by someone's words? How many had someone speak to you and it inspired you? Yeah? How many had someone speak to you and it changed your mind in a good way? Right? But how many of you have also had a vocal investment that wasn't so great? So somebody spoke to you and you felt discouraged after it was over. They kind of tore you down. Right? See, here's the thing with vocal investments. They can go both ways. You can say something and help that relationship tremendously. So some of the things that have been said to me that helped me a lot were just encouraging that I can work hard, that I don't have to quit, that I'm smart, that I'm talented, right? Like those things have built me up. Yes, I can do that. But there's also been times in my life where people have said things to me and I'm like, that wasn't nice. That kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. You know what? Sometimes we believe those lies, don't we? We believe those things, and it begins to shape the course of our life. Look what it says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 18. It says, the tongue can bring death or life. The tongue can bring death or life. And you are the one that chooses between death and life. Because you're the one in control of your tongue, right? Oh, I don't know. I'm not very good at controlling my tongue. Yeah, that's a lesson you're going to have to learn, right? If you're going to get a good investment in your relationships, what should we do? We need to control the way our words come out. And sometimes we can say the right thing and it's taken the wrong way. Ever been there? Right? Sometimes we can say the wrong thing and it's taken the right way. That never happens, almost rarely, right? But most of the time, when we speak, we have the decision to go, this is going to be a life-giving or a life-taking sort of ordeal. Now, I have 4 kids. My oldest 2 are 9 and 11 right now, and they share a room, and they go to the same elementary school, and they're constantly together. Like, we treat them almost unfairly as a pair. We're like, you 2 do this, you 2 go there, you 2 sleep in the same room, wake up at the same time, go to the same school, wear the same uniforms. I mean, they share clothes, they share closets, they share everything, right? And so inevitably, these 2 girls living in the same room, doing all the same things at the same time, fight with each other. Anybody else have that happen in your house? They just like, she did this, she did that, and they're pointing fingers, and they're accusing, and they're like, I just need my own room. That's how we're going to solve this thing. I need my own room. Right? Like, that's what happens in my house. Now, every once in a while, when they really get going, I'll sit them down, and I'll ask them a simple question based on this verse. And I'll just say, are your words right now bringing life to your sister or taking life away from your sister? And I'll look at the other one. Are your words bringing life to her or taking life away from her? And that is the test. Not what I meant, not what I intended, not how I feel, but are my words bringing life and investing vocally into this person? Is that happening? And of course, my daughters go, I don't know. Because they know I'm right. They're like, no, I'm not building them up. I'm not bringing life to them, but they can't admit that they're wrong. Anybody else like that here? She is me to a T, right? Like, I don't want to be wrong. I don't know. But the truth is, no, we do know, don't we? We do know that our words have the power of death and life. We do know that there's something there that we can speak and we can build someone up, or we can just as easily tear someone down. If we want to have a great investment in our relationships, we're going to have to check our words every once in a while. Leah and I, as we first got married, we knew a couple, and their story doesn't end well because their words didn't start well. They got married around the same time as us, around the same age as us, and the words that they shared with one another were not good. They weren't the kind of words that you would say were like super evil or mean, but they didn't respect each other. Does that make sense to you guys? It's just a little bit of, you always do that. It's not real bad. Oh, he's just one of the big kids around here. She's always nagging me. Nah. You know, just little things that you think, oh, that doesn't seem so bad. But that was on the surface. And their words began to degrade and pull at each other. And their words did not bring life. Their words began to bring death and separation between the two of them. And their marriage fell apart. All of our relationships can have life brought right in the middle with the right words. But we have to make a conscious decision to bring vocal investments to all of those relationships. Does that make sense to everybody? We've got to mind our words. We've got to see it happening. Because I know probably some of the best days of your life are when somebody spoke life over you, and some of the worst days of your life is when somebody spoke death over you. Our words are powerful. The second thing, if you want to build your relationship portfolio, if you really want to make a difference, is value investments. Value investments. Now, vocal investments are valuable to a lot of people. But there's some people who have a different love language. Now, if you've never heard of love languages, there's 5 different love languages, and mine is words of affirmation. So when my wife says, baby, you're the best, I go, oh, thank you, baby, I know I'm the best. Thank you, right? And then I'm on my way. Like, I do whatever. If she believes in me, I can do anything in the world. I promise you that. But if I say to her, hey, baby, you're the best, she goes, that's great, sit down and spend some time with me, because her love language is different. Her love language is quality time. And I can speak. I can tell her, I can text her all day long. But if I don't come home and sit next to her and just have my undivided attention with her, she feels left out. Does that make sense to you guys? There's 3 other love languages even beyond that. What I need to do as a friend, as a spouse, as a whatever, I need to take time and I need to find that love language and I need to bring value to them. I can do that with my children. I can do that with my coworkers. Because just because it's called a love language doesn't mean you need to be in love with them. You just need to know, hey, this is how I communicate that you're valuable to me. This is how I communicate that there's something inside of you that I want to grow. I want to see that return on an investment in our relationship. And I'm going to speak that language clearly to you. I was actually listening to a podcast about the former CEO of Home Depot. When he became CEO, he inherited kind of a rough culture. The culture there at that time, he said, was they didn't celebrate the wins very well. There's a little bit more backbiting than he wanted, and he wanted to instill the value of helping and encouraging other people in his organization. But the problem was he was one man trying to influence thousands upon thousands upon thousands of employees spread across the entire United States. So the question is, well, how does he do this? So he made a decision to add value to as many people as he could. And so what he did is every time someone was caught doing something good, whether they were a service person, someone stocking, someone in management, someone in corporate office, whatever it was, anytime someone did anything good, he would write them a handwritten note from the CEO that says, hey, you did a great job. You're really living up to the value that we want as a company. And he wrote up to 100 handwritten notes every single week in order to do this. And as he did that, one note at a time, he slowly began to add value to the people of his company. And he began to highlight, these are some of the things in our company that we want to make a difference in. And we want to live by these values. And eventually the culture of the entire organization began to shift because he just sat at his desk and wrote notes saying, thank you. I want to add value to you. Isn't it incredible to think that a multi-million-dollar company could be changed by a 5-cent note again, again, and again? In fact, one time he was visiting a store and one of the associates came up to him and she stopped him and said, I'm really sorry to do this, but can you write the note you wrote me again? You see, my husband did not believe that you, the CEO, would write a handwritten note to me, and that he thought it was printed and sent to everybody. And so to prove that it was printed, we ran it underwater to see if the ink would smear, and it did smear. And so it was a real handwritten note, but now I've ruined the note. Can you please give me another note? Can you rewrite it again? And of course he obliged, but it's unbelievable to think somebody wants to add value to me. That's where she was. That's where we are in our culture. See, we need to add value to our relationships. We need to not look out just for ourselves, but for the people around us too. We want to add value to them. And when we add value to the relationships around us, there's going to be a return on that investment, right? We're going to see something happening. Now, the crazy thing is, the world doesn't see it the way we do. The only place that you're going to find this kind of motivation, this kind of influence, speaking vocally speaking and value speaking into your relationships, is in a place like this. When you turn on the TV, what kind of relationships do you see? Messed up relationships, right? Because when you turn on the television and there's like 30 girls trying to win the approval of one man, I didn't name any shows or anything, or the drama highlights how this person falls in love with this person and then it all falls apart, that's entertaining. And then this person marries that person, but they really love that person, and they sleep with this person. It's all over the place. That's drama, and they highlight the brokenness of relationships because that sells. But that is not the kind of life you want to have, right? Where can you find a place where relationships are highlighted to help you grow healthier? Well, you're in the right place. When you go to God's Word, you can begin to understand this is how it's supposed to be. So we need to feed ourselves with the right things. There's a verse in the book of Philippians that I want to kind of help us grow in this area of adding values to others. Check this out. Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and part of 4. It says this, don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. So there's two halves to that one, the selfish part and the others part. And then it does the same thing here. Don't look out only for your own interest, that's you, but take an interest in others too. So there's the you portion of it, and then there's the others portion. The first one says, don't be selfish. That's about you. Don't be selfish, and don't look out for your own interests, only for your own interests. Does it say you can't look out for your own interests? No. It says just don't look out for your own interests only. Only. You should take care of yourself. You don't have to be self-depreciating. But you know what? Don't think of yourself over everyone else. Does that make sense? So there's an interaction there between selfishness and looking out for others' interests. And then the second half, don't try to impress others, but take an investment and interest in others too. Don't try to impress them, but take an interest in them. If you really want to add value to the people around you, don't live your life to impress them, but live your life to take an interest in them. And as you take an interest in them, they will find value in that. If you constantly go from conversation to conversation trying to impress the people around you, you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you, and that's a pretty selfish motivation, right? Oh, you like me? Oh, you told me how awesome I am. That's great. I impressed you. Next person. Ooh, can you tell me how awesome I am at it too? Okay, yeah. And you're interacting with people so that you get the feeling of, ooh, they're impressed with me, and I feel better. What if we went through our relationships, and instead of trying to impress everyone, we went through and we took interest in them? Well, like you meet someone, and when you walk away, they have one of two reactions. Ooh, they're interesting, or ooh, they're interested in me. And it's far better for us to be found interested than interesting, because that'll develop a real relationship. Don't look out just for what you want, but look out for someone else. Ask them the questions. What do you love? What do you dream? What do you want to do with your life? Where are you going, right? Like, don't just go, here I am, here's how awesome I am, don't you love me? Right? That's not cool. We don't like to be friends with those people, do we? No? Okay, it's quiet in here. This is weird. What we want to do is we want to have an interest in others and add value to them by showing them that someone on earth cares about them. Someone on earth wants to know about them. That's a great way to build your relationships, a great way to add value investments to the people around you. And number 3, this is the big one, vision investments. vision investments. Those first two are things that we can do right here, right now. This one you can do now, but this one's a little less obvious. Yeah, we need to we need to speak well to each other. We need to add value to each other. But vision is something that we kind of miss the mark on sometimes. It's not something that's talked about a lot. Like I said earlier, the world likes to sell drama, and we like to be more drama-less, right? Like we don't want to do that. We want to speak vision and value over people. So vision investments in relationships are critical. And here's what I mean by that. When you have a relationship, there's three ways that you interact. And I taught this to the marriage conference last night, so I'm sorry if you heard this already. So my wife, Leah, and I, on our wedding day, I stood here and she stood there, held each other's hands, we looked each other's eyes, and that was our face-to-face interaction. Like, ooh, baby, you so good looking, right? Like, there's this attraction, there's this communication, like that was my relationship face-to-face. Now, my relationship back-to-back is different. So I had her stand back-to-back with me, and I said, she can see what I can't see, and I can see what she can't see, and we protect each other. That's another interaction in a relationship. But the last one was the side-by-side. We're shoulder to shoulder, moving in the same direction. That's what this vision is. It's two people moving in the same direction. You can be friends, you can be coworkers, you can be married, you can be your children, whatever it is, but we have a common vision that we're moving towards. And if I want my relationship to grow, I can cast vision for our relationship to move in a certain direction. And I believe that's a godly thing. I believe that God has given us all a calling. He's given us all a vision. And if my wife and I are moving in the same direction, we're going to get a lot done. We're going to agree a lot more. We're going to fall deeper in love with one another. And the same is true with all of our relationships. If you want your relationships to have a return on that initial investment, you've got to move forward together. And that's what vision is. Now, when it comes to vision investments, they can be a positive thing, but did you know you can cast vision for a negative thing? You can cast vision for negative. So all of us are experts at negative vision casting. Did you know that? But we don't call it negative vision casting. We call it worry and anxiety. We play out all of these scenarios that can come through our imagination, and we start to speak them over our relationships. That is a negative vision casting, right? But we also can do positive things. And in fact, there's a Bible story that highlights both the positive and the negative when it comes to vision casting. There's a guy in the Old Testament named David. You may have heard of him before. It's David and Goliath David, or King David, king of the Israelites, the second king of the Israelites. And in the story we're about to read, he's already killed Goliath, and so he's a celebrated hero throughout Israel. But he's not king yet. He's kind of king in waiting to become the next king. And he's got a band of warriors around him. And what he does is he travels through parts of the countryside, and he defends the nation of Israel against different attackers from around. So sometimes it's the Philistines, sometimes it's different nations. But one of the customs of that time frame is when David and his warriors would defend a certain region, the people who lived in that region that were spared from the attack of the enemy would give David and his men a portion of their crops or a portion of their sheep, just to kind of say thank you for the protection, because we wouldn't have any of this if it weren't for you. Well, one day David is in his mountain hideout, or whatever it is he did, and he sends some young men into the valley to collect this from a man named Nabal. It was sheep shearing time, so he says, will you young men go get what's ours and then bring it back from Nabal? But this is the response that Nabal gives when these young men show up. Check it out. He just says to the young men, hey, can you give the stuff for David? And he goes, who's this fellow David? Nabal sneered to the young men. Sneered. That's a very descriptive term, isn't it? Just one of those moments. Who's David, right? He just kind of, which is funny because everybody knows David. Everybody in this room knows David. Of course, Nabal had to know David, right? Because David killed Goliath. He was legendary. The world was hearing about David. Does that make sense? Who's David? But Nabal didn't mean in the fact that he didn't know who he was, but he was actually questioning David's very name. Who does David think he is to come here? And Nabal began to make a vision investment in his relationship with David. But it was not a positive investment in that relationship. Don't you agree? And so these young men are sneered at by Nabal, and they go back up to David, and look at David's response in all of this. I love it. So David's young men returned and told him what Nabal had said, and this is David's short response. "Get your swords," was David's reply as he strapped on his own, and then 400 men started off with David. There was a vision cast by Nabal, and David was about to show what that vision was all about. You guys get that? Can you imagine getting bad news or a response that Nabal gave to you, and you'd be like, all right, I'm going to go punch him. Like, and that's just it. They just straight off. David's like, get your swords, we're moving. He was mad. He was angry because the vision that was cast over David was a negative one, and he responded accordingly. But fortunately for Nabal, he had a good wife named Abigail. And Abigail heard what Nabal had done. And she goes, oh, here he goes again, right? Ladies. Isn't it always up to ladies to fix all the dumb things that guys do? Right? So here's Nabal. He's kind of got himself a little prideful. He said the wrong thing. She knows that David's not going to take it well. So without telling Nabal, she gets some goods together. She puts some things together. She puts it on the donkey. She sends some servants out and sends the food out to David, sends what he's deserved out to David. And she herself goes up out of the valley on the road, on the way to meet David. And her words to David are so critical, and they are one of the best examples of vision investments in the entire Bible. Check this out. Her words to David, "Please forgive me if I have offended you in any way. The Lord will surely reward you with a lasting dynasty, for you are fighting the Lord's battles, and you have not done wrong throughout your entire life." Now, this is an extremely eloquent example of speaking vision investments into a relationship. David did not know her, but she knew him. And she knew that he was a warrior and that his reaction would be, get your sword, right? But look at how she does not speak to David as he currently is. He's angry. He's coming down the mountain. He's kicking butt and taking names, right? That's David's role right now. But look how she speaks to him. "The Lord will surely reward you with a lasting dynasty." Now, at this point, David was not king. Not even close. He was just a defender, a warrior of Israel. Yet she speaks to the king inside of David, the potential king inside of him. You see that? See, kings don't just get involved with peasant people like Nabal, right? He's not acting like a king. He's acting like an angry, spited man. And he's coming down the mountain because he's mad. And she goes, whoa, 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 whoa. There's a king inside of you. And she begins to speak to the king in David, not the angry man as he is. And she begins to speak vision over him. And she begins to address that person inside of him. Listen, our relationships, every person you know, God has placed within them a king or a queen. God has placed within them so much potential that only God can bring out of them. Just the calling that he's placed on them, the direction in life. And all of that is in there, laden within every single one of us. And our job as people of relationship, our job is to speak to the potential in that person, not just as they currently are. And that's exactly what she does. She speaks to the king in him. And she goes on, "For you are fighting the Lord's battles." Now, at this time, was David about to fight the Lord's battle? Not even close. He was fighting the battle of his own pride, wasn't he? But he said mean things to me. So I'm going to get my sword and I'm going to do something about it. I ain't backing down, right? Anybody else? Any other guys in the house that have ever walked through that? Nobody? Y'all are so quiet this morning. So quiet. But isn't that true? Like he was hurt. His pride was hurt. And she goes, "Well, you only fight the Lord's battles, right?" And I think in that moment, and she begins to speak to the king in him, and she speaks to the moment where it's, hey, this is the Lord's battle. He begins to soften a little bit, and then she drops the hammer on him. The one last thing. She goes, and you've not done wrong throughout your entire life, have you, David? She knew about David. She knew that he was supposed to be king. She knew that he honored God in his battles and fought the battles for the Lord. She knew that he had great pride because he always chose to do the right thing. But he was on his way to do something that he shouldn't be doing. He was entering into a battle that he never should have gone into. He was moving in a direction that he should not have moved, right? And she begins to speak to him and said, no. That's not the direction for you. What is she doing? Vision investments. Vision investments. There are times in our life where the people around us, they're not living up to the potential in their life. They're not living up to the kind of person the relationship was supposed to be like. There's your expectation, but then here's what you actually experience. And in the middle, there's this gap, right? So what are you going to do? What do you put in the gap? Do you cast vision for who they could be? Do you speak to the king or queen inside of them? Or you say, I knew it. I knew you weren't good enough. I knew you could never make it. Which one is it going to be? We can speak to the vision in the people around us. We can speak to the vision, to the king, queen inside of them. We can cast vision over life. We can make vision investments. We can only do that because we have a heavenly Father who's already done that for us. I don't know about you. I've not lived the perfect life. And I think if I did an individual interview with each and every one of you, you'd go, yeah, I'm not perfect either, right? Who I could be and who I actually am are kind of different. I've made some decisions I shouldn't have made, and there's a gap there. And what does God do with the gap? He casts vision over your life. Look at this from the book of 1 Peter. But you are not like that, for you are a chosen people. Have we ever acted like people that are chosen? Sure. Are there times in our life where we act like we're not chosen? We follow our own will instead of God's will. We do what we want instead of what He wants. He says, you are royal priests. Do you feel like royal priests most days? Or sometimes you feel like, I kind of am lacking in the whole priestliness thing. I'm not that good. Yet God speaks that over you. You're a holy nation. Okay, I am far from holy, right? Is that what you feel some days? You're God's very own possession. Even when we're at our worst, God looks at you and He still believes the best. He still is making these vision investments over your life, saying you have purpose. You are called by me, God, calling you to something very specific, very, very real, and very impactful. God speaks those over you. And then look at this. I love it. And as a result, you can show others the goodness of God, for He called you out of the darkness into His wonderful light. He says, God has spoken vision over your life, so now you can go speak vision over someone else's life. Just like God spoke over you, hey, you're not where you should be, but I'm going to help you take you there. I'm going to speak to the king or queen inside of you. Now you can go out to the world around you, and you can begin to speak to the king or queen inside of them. You can speak to your children and raise them up to be godly leaders. You can speak to your coworkers and draw them into the presence of God, out of darkness, into the light. Right? You can do this because God has already done it in you. Now, that's powerful, isn't it? That's only possible because of what God did. Perfection and imperfection. I've lived in the imperfection camp for a long time. Until one day, I came to a church like ours, and the pastor told me about Jesus and how even though I'm imperfect, He made a way for me to move over to righteousness, to perfection. Not because I'm good, but because God's good. That Jesus died on the cross to take away my sin, and my shame, and my brokenness, and my hurt, and my pain. He came to wipe all that away and give me a new, fresh start in Him, to heal me spiritually. And once I learned that, it was game on. Because this vision that God was speaking over my life was becoming a reality. No longer was I just a person, but I was His chosen people. I was set apart for Him. And I believe God has that for every single one of you in this room this morning. He's not done. He's not done with you by a long shot. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to pray over you guys. Is that okay? So if nobody could be moving around, just kind of have a quiet moment where you get to listen to God. You can even close your eyes and bow your heads. And I want you to just take a moment and focus on what God is speaking to you. What's He saying to you now? Do you believe that He set you apart? Do you believe that the vision He speaks over you is true? Or at some point in your life, have you believed the lie? You're too broken. Too many things wrong with you. Your relationship is too far gone. It can never be restored. Or do you want to listen to the vision that God has for you? You're His creation. That He loves you. He wants relationship with you. That He can heal any broken relationship, and He can take you into a purpose and a calling that He's designed for you. This morning, let's pray a prayer. And the prayer is simple. Say, God, I give you everything I am. I'm not going to believe the lie anymore that I'm separated from you, but today I give everything I am to you. Give me the strength to live that out. Why don't you pray this quietly right where you are. Father, this morning I pray that you would forgive me. Forgive me my sins. Forgive me for choosing my will above your will. Today I receive that forgiveness. And I pray, God, that you would make me whole. That I would dismiss the lie that I'm too broken. I dismiss the lie my relationships are too far gone. Pray that you would restore and that you would heal, God, as I know only you can. Thank you, Father. In your name we pray. Everybody says, amen. Why don't you put your hands together for people who just prayed that prayer.
Thank you so much for joining us online today. If you prayed that prayer with us, we would like to help you on your spiritual journey. If you don't mind going to theshorechurch.com or emailing us at hello@theshorechurch.com, we can send you some information to start this spiritual journey of faith. And of course, we'd always love to see you in person at The Shore Church, 3375 Fruitville Road.